Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. This is your host, Emily, and today is November 10th. And man, this year's going fast. We're almost to Thanksgiving, and then we have Christmas, and it's 2016 before you actually know it. So I'm not really prepared for the holidays. In our family, we've really stopped trying to go overboard with the gifts. And a lot of the stuff that I usually give as gifts is seeds, gardening stuff that's going to be eaten in the kitchen, things that can be consumed or used within the year. Um, I can tell you I never need another mug again. And it seems like people seem give like Christmas mugs and stuff out like that. And yeah, totally not what I want for Christmas stuff and not what I want to give. So I need to start thinking of what I'm doing for some of these gifts out there. But Christmas is just right around the corner. And I actually had can't even call it midlife, but something for me last week is I turned 35 last Wednesday, and if you do follow me on Facebook, our social media guy Vinny found out it was my birthday and posted it on a Girl in a Garden page that it was my birthday. I wasn't saying anything, but I turned 35 last Wednesday, and I've been having this kind of hard time with turning 35, and it's looking at it now. 35 is not old at all. When you're in your 20s or even as a teenager, you're like 35 is super old. And even as a little kid, I'd look at it and go, okay, I'm going to turn 18. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to graduate. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have a white picket fence. I'm going to have kids. And you're planning out your life. And at 28, you have two kids and you're doing, all that family stuff. And this is what you set out as a little kid. Like, this is what you're going to do as an adult. And I'm turning 35 and I don't have any of that. And which is fine. And it's I really like how my lifestyle is, and I get to talk about gardening all day long. Get to talk about huge commercial sized gardens down to growing herbs on your windowsill. So I love what I do with my career and what I've done with my life. But looking at it now, I'm like, okay, I'm not married, don't have kids. I'm 35. I'm probably not going to do any of that in my lifetime. But I have some really cool stories, and I've got to see a lot of the world. So 35 is a big one. So my birthday is November 4th, but in my family, I also have a gotcha day on November 6th. And a lot of people don't know this, but I was adopted, and I was adopted at 2 days old. So November 4th, happy birthday. November 6th is my gotcha day. And that's when my parents actually got me. They were able to go to the hospital and pick me up. So that's the gotcha day, and I'd always get a present on both days. It was kind of fun in our family because I'd have 2 days of presents. As an adult, it's like, hey, here's a happy birthday card, and you get a gotcha day text, which is fine at 35. I'm not complaining one bit on that one. So, kind of fun, and it's always fun to explain to my friends when I'm like, oh no, it's gotcha day, and I have to explain what it is. And then my friends who aren't adopted are like, that's actually pretty cool. I was like, yep, 2 birthdays grown up. So very fun. Life changing for me though. 35 is not the age that you can call and go, hey, something's going on. Can I move back in with you, mom and dad? you know, what you can do in your early 20s, which I did. I was working retail and I quit my job, and I called my parents and said, hey, quit my job. I want to go back to college. I hate my job. Fucking hate this. I need to do something else. And I've done that. 35, you just can't do that. 35, you start talking to your other friends about your parents' health, or who has a living will, or has your parents made a will? Do they have their medical stuff written down? So it's just a different age when you're an adult. 35 is an adult, I guess, is what I'm having a hard time coming to terms with. But even as an adult, you can still have a whole bunch of fun, which I am going to do this week. So tomorrow, I am headed off to Las Vegas for the Marijuana Business Conference and Expo, November 11th through the 13th at the Rio. And this is a really cool show. This is more of a commercial thing with your cannabis businesses, venture capitalists. Some people might call them vulture capitalists, but whatever you prefer to call them. It's there's no actual product. So the show has the word marijuana in the show name, but there is none of that product available. There's no sampling. It's nothing that you would think of with the High Times Cup. This will be business professionals with suits on, business business casual outfits, and you're talking with people that aren't high. And it's just a very different interaction than when you would have at the High Times Cup. So this is a really big show. It's their fourth annual one. It's been featured on and talked about on CNBC, CNN, NBC, and it's the fourth annual fall conference with networking with over 4,000 of your business peers, including growers, dispensaries, and infused makers from the U.S. You have 30,000 square feet of expo floor packed with cannabis related vendors and 50 plus expert speakers giving out presentations and Q&A sessions with many topics to choose from. And they also have add-ons, including the Marijuana Business Investor Breakfast, the crash course for newcomers, which is actually tomorrow. So if you aren't registered, you actually need to be in Vegas ASAP. And they have an industry night celebration, which you can buy really expensive tickets to. And I did not do that one. But for more information about the show, you can do mjbizconference.com. Starts tomorrow. It is an expensive show. I believe it's $400 now just to walk the show floor. And if you want to attend some of the seminars, the price obviously goes up from there. So I've done the show in Chicago before. They had one earlier this year. I believe it was in May. And I did that with Nanolux, and that was the first show that we did like this. And it was actually very well. It was a good show for us, despite the fact that we were in this strange room and it wasn't laid out very well on the floor plan. But the Rio should be much, much better. So I will be there in the Nanolux Technology booth number 505, and they're launching, or as most of you know, I am the national sales manager for Nanolux as well. They're also a sponsor of A Girl in a Garden. They're launching new products at the show: CMH 315 watt and 630 watt fixtures, along with 3K and 4K 315 watt ceramic metal halide lamps. And they're in stock and ready to ship to stores. They also have, I'm trying to think what's the most exciting product that I talk about all day long in my day job, and that would be our double jacketed, double ended metal halide lamps in 4K and 6K. And these are ones that have a double jacket on it, so they can be used in open reflectors. A major change: there are ones on the market that are not double jacketed. They are great if they're used in air cooled DE hoods, but they are not approved for use in open reflectors. So Nanolux will be showing off the new lamp line Max Par at the show, along with the new commercial fixtures. There are several lighting companies going to be at the show. And I also will throw out Forever Flowering Greenhouses. They will also be at the show. Definitely check by their booth. They also have been making some changes at their showroom up in Grass Valley, California. And Nanolux has some amazing lights up in their showroom with their light deprivation, fully automated greenhouses. And they were going to be putting some rolling benches in it and all that amazing large scale greenhouse growing light depot greenhouse stuff. So they'll be at the show. Lots and lots of great companies that are going to be there. So I'm really looking forward to it. I will be talking about it next Tuesday on A Girl in a Garden. And then I will also be calling in, along with Nanolux's president, Keith, we'll be calling in Wednesday the 18th to the Heavy Teas Grow Show. And we'll give an update of what we thought of the Marijuana Business Conference. And then we'll be also talking about Nanolux's new products. And Nanolux, besides being a sponsor of A Girl in a Garden, is also the newest sponsor to DFC Radio for Heavy Teas Grow Show. So next week, you can listen to me on the show, 5 p.m. on Tuesday, dfcradio.com for A Girl in a Garden, or Heavy Teas Grow Show. My phone call, I'm supposed to call in there around 7 p.m. So next Wednesday, the 18th. So that'll be definitely a good one. But for today's show, since I've just talked a long time about the Marijuana Business Expo and next week on the Heavy Tea Grow Show, today's show, I am going to give a little update on what's going on with my backyard after getting that tote of soil delivered and trying to blend everything in. Now it's wintertime or fall and it started to rain, so it's a little bit sidetracked, but it's going to take a while to get back on track. So I'll be doing an update on that. Also, using dewy misters in aeroponic cloner. Pruning peppers that are grown indoors with hydroponics. And storing lettuce. So lots of great information about gardening today. Now we're going to take a brief break to hear from a Girl in a Garden show sponsors, including Smart Pots and Nanolux Technology. If you are interested in becoming a sponsor of A Girl in a Garden, please contact Aaliyah, and her contact information is ALEA@dfcradio.com. So we'll take a brief break, and we will be back talking about my backyard. So this is Emily on dfcradio.com.
You're listening to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com.
Hey, Dr. Duff, are you signing up for another one of those internet dating sites after your divorce?
Nah, I'm just ordering these freaking douchebags from China here. Just gonna be saving a lot of money on it. About $1 a bag.
Did you say douchebags?
Yeah, they're pots. They're fabric pots. They're, made in China. They save $1 a bag from all the other.
Oh, it sounds like an imitation smart pot or something.
Yeah, save $1, but, I'm pretty sure these douchebags are gonna work.
Dude, I had a buddy of mine who used those same douchebags. He bought them direct from China. It killed his whole garden.
Bro, what? So, I'm better off spending that extra dollar on a smart pot?
I'd get a smart pot.
Don't be a Duff man. Make sure to buy the original patented Smart Pot. Check them out at smartpots.com.
A Girl in a Garden lighting quick tip. It's lighting season and people are beginning to do their setups for indoor gardening. And one of the more popular question is, can I dim down my 1,000-watt ballast to run my 600-watt lamp? And here is the answer that I give. You should always use a matching lamp with a matching ballast. Dimming is not an option that should be used for long term. The acceptable uses of dimming would be dimming it down when you first flip your plants. You do not want to shock them when you put it at 100% of HPS power for 1,000 watts when you transplant them. Another time for dimming is at the very end when you're trying to push the plants. Dimming is an acceptable form. Or if for some reason, say, a lamp goes out and all you have is a 600-watt lamp and you need to get through the weekend because a hydro shop's closed, then yes, adding in a 600-watt lamp to replace the broken 1,000-watt and dimming is an acceptable use until this hydro store opens the next day and you have to go in and buy a 1,000-watt lamp. So the short-term answer is buy the right equipment for the right situation. And so that would be matching lamps with matching ballast. When you dim down, you do not get the full spectral output of the lamp. And so you're not getting the full potential of the lamp that you bought. That's why dimming should not be used unless you use it in the situations that I described before. So that is the rundown. If you have a 600-watt lamp and you have a 1,000-watt ballast, purchase the correct equipment. So you have a 600-watt lamp and a 600-watt ballast and a 1,000-watt lamp and a 1,000-watt ballast. So that is a Girl in a Garden quick tip on dimming your ballast. And if you would like to hear more information from my sponsor, Nanolux Technology, who does make ballast, the information is nanoluxtech.com. Check out their website. This is another quick tip from A Girl in a Garden.
We're listening to DFC Radio.
A girl and a garden here, and this is an update of what's growing on in my backyard. So, as I've shown in the past few weeks, I have gotten a huge delivery of soil, which would be a tote of soil, which is basically a pallet of just soil, which I got from Vermicrop Organics. It's Vermifier, which is a great soil. It can be kind of hot, but this is a little bit of leftover inventory, and I'm also kind of blending it with other things in my backyard to make a growing area back here. So if you can see this, and it's maybe 10 by 10 or 15 by 15, so it's not like a huge area, it's a square area, but I'm trying to level it out so it all has the same amount of soil. What I have growing in it from last year is these are my trap crops. So these are ones that are obviously disease infested. Looks like you have some powdery mildew, have some insects, have some aphids on it, but I'm leaving it here because all the insects go here instead of going to this kale crop. So the kale still looks pretty good, so I'm not going to pull it out. It's mulched, it's in the old soil, it will live. But what I've done is, this is a pit that I dug out this weekend, and I blended in the soil and then filled it back up so you can see a little bit of the dig marks on it. A little bit of the old kale that's just laid out here that will eventually be composted, and I'll probably cover up some of this stuff as it gets dug out. And I have a few pits in this area. This one's filled with some Pro Mix and has bat guano in it, Vermifier. So what's growing in this backyard though is the kale, the trap crop, this Smart Pots Big Bag Bed Junior that's purple that's gonna get moved over to the container part. And then there's some spinach growing over on that side of the garden. But what I'm going to have to do over the winter time frame, as it doesn't rain, and we're in the rainy season, so it's getting rainy, is mix all of this soil into a bed that will be completely redone. So when it comes to spring planting next year, this will be a nice, pretty planting area. So I was able to do 3 little holes, 3 fill-ins, 3 blends, and then you see a ton of soil that's out here. So that's kind of what's growing on in my backyard on this side of the garden. And this is just not, I just can't grow that much here. I need to have less rain, and I need to be able to fill all of this stuff in. So the garden is probably in more worse shape than it's been in a while, but it's redoing it so I can have good soil for next year. And again, I've showed this side before, but this is the container garden side. And we're sitting, oh, let's see, it's November 9th right now. So we're doing this on a Monday in November. And there's a bunch of strawberries here still, if you can see this. So we're still putting out some crops. It's getting a little bit cooler, but strawberries, we can have some rosemary that's going to be year round. This banana tree that's really taken off is going to have to be moved inside to see if it can survive. Mints will be fine for next year. The chives will be fine. And then we have some empty containers. This artichoke will be a great landscaping plant. And again, more soil, more mulch. This is the bag that the soil came in. So lots and lots of stuff in there. So as you see, my backyard is in a very chaotic space right now, and it's going to be worked on little by little, so it won't be just piles of soil that you see, but you will be seeing actual area that you can grow in. And good soil is going to make a world of difference. When you don't have stuff growing very well, you should always check your fertilizer and your soil. And I can tell you that this backyard did not perform the best because of the soil that wasn't very good in it and the lack of fertilizer. So I believe someone just planted some tomatoes this year, and they thought that worm castings they heard about from their friend is the best thing in the world. And so instead of using worm castings in conjunction with other things, they planted with just the worm castings. And that's how you get plants that don't grow very well. So this is going to eliminate the problem next year, is redoing all of this soil. And then when it comes springtime, I can just do some planting directly into the soil and have some excellent results. So we're going to have some vermifier in here. We're going to have some dry amendments mixed in. We have bat guano. We have the mix of soil that's not so hot, but we're going to bump it up to make it some pretty hot, nice soil that's not just big chunks or clobs of dirt. So that is my update from a girl in a garden of what's growing on in my backyard and the changes I'm making so I can have some healthy soil for next gardening season. So until next time, this is Emily.
We're listening to DFCRadio.com.
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on DFCRadio.com. I'm your host, Emily. So today what I'm doing is I have my 16 site Easy Clone. I will be modifying it, and how I'm doing that is I will be removing the water pump and manifold and replacing it with 2 dewy misters and an air pump. One of the reasons I'm modifying my Easy Cloner is that the water pump that's inside of here actually heats up the solution inside the Easy Clone. The dewy mister is powered by an external air pump. This will reduce the heat in the solution. The largest enemy of aeroponic gardening is heat. And now we're going to have Gabby from Worldwide Garden Supply show us how to modify this unit.
Well, thanks, Emily. So, to modify this Easy Clone for the Dewey Mister system is pretty simple. First, I'm going to let you know how the Dewey Mister works. So, what we have here is a place for the air line to go through, and basically it's going to be pushing air through this column. And while it does that, it's going to be drawing water in through this hole. It's creating a vacuum, so it's going to create a spray of water that's super fine drops and lots of oxygen added to it. So it couldn't be easier to modify the system. All we're going to do is take off the lid, pull out the water pump and manifold, and we're going to replace it with 2 Dewey Misters. Probably 1 would even be enough for such a small cloner, but we're going to use 2 in this example. So you see I just pushed 2 Dewey Misters in there. Going to attach the air line, and these babies are going to be ready to go. Alright, let's plug this thing in and see how it mists. So, one thing with the Dewey Misters that you want to do is you want to adjust the airflow to make them work properly. So there we go. I'm pretty much dialed in right now. So the whole idea is, if you have too much air, I'll shut one of these off. If you have too much air, you're going to get not as much water, and you're going to get finer drops. And if you have not enough air, you're going to get bigger drops. So the valves allow you to dial it in. And I think that's just perfect. Cover on the system. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but the drops are spraying out of all the holes right now. So something else I wanted to show is we switched the air pumps. You can use different size air pumps with this thing. So here I'm going to plug in the General Hydroponics dual diaphragm pump, which is 8 watts. Okay, just for the point of record, this is the 8 watt. So this is 3 misters on a 35 watt air pump. Now we're going to change these 3 misters to the 8 watt. So on top of using the Dewey Mister to modify our Easy Clone, we're also able to turn it into an instant hydroponic system just by adding 1 Dewey Mister to the bottom of this 5-gallon bucket, putting a mesh pot on top. Now we've got an instant hydro system. Over here what we did was we installed the Dewey Misters a little bit differently through underneath, which I'll show you in a second how we did it, to make an instant 5-gallon compost tea brewer. And so what we have is we have 2 Dewey Misters that don't have the risers on them. They're just bubbling from the bottom. And then 2 of them, I actually made an extension. And the whole idea of the extension is so that it sprays from above. It won't spray until I add a little more pressure to that. Gotta adjust the valves a little bit. But that's the whole idea, is that we're gonna have some bubbling from below, as well as some spraying on the top to get high levels of oxygen. Let me show you how we did this real quick. So you take a 5-gallon bucket or your tray or even your Easy Clone if you wanted to. We could have drilled holes in the bottom of it, 3/8 of an inch. We stick the grommets in, it's a 1/2 inch grommet. Make sure that it's sealed good. And then we push the Dewey Mister in from below. I really like doing this because it keeps all the hoses outside of the system, keeps everything clean. So then, we just put the Dewey Mister in from the inside. And you can add an extension if you want to use it for a compost tea brewer and have it higher in the bucket, or you can leave it down low like this if you're going to turn it into a hydroponic system. So the Dewey Mister is just an extremely versatile tool to help you modify existing aeroponic systems, as well as create new hydroponic systems and compost tea brewers. So thanks, Emily, for inviting me to A Girl in a Garden so that I could share this with everyone. For more information on the Dewey Mister, contact us at worldwidegardensupply.com.
We're listening to DFCRadio.com.
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on DFCRadio.com. And today I was going to give you a little bit of an update of what's growing on. And what I have here today is a few peppers that need some attention. I have kind of dropped the ball and taken care of some peppers. These were grown in rock-wool cubes. And it's time to prune them because they've actually gone to flower and some of this stuff. So I'm going to show you how I prune up some of these pepper plants and remove all of the buds on it. So I will go through and cut off any of the yellowing ones. I'm going to thin this out a little bit. There's kind of some deformed growth on here. And I'll admit that was for me, maybe not taking care of them the best I could. But it happens, and it's not the end of the world. So I am going to prune these up really easily. Take a few things off. I'm going to spray them with some compost tea and put them back in the system, or back in the hydroponic system that these are in. And we'll see them look like a completely different plant coming up. And there's quite a few buds on here. Now, if you don't know, if you are not ready for your plant to start flowering, you want it to focus on fruit production, focus on growth, new leaves, larger plants, you actually want to cut all of the buds off of the plants and give it a little bit more time and veg before it switches over. And this will help with stronger, healthier plants in the long run. So it might look like I'm cutting off too much. It's okay. I'm not. It will pop back. There's going to be a lot more growth on here. And you are going to see in a few weeks that this turns out to be a beautiful pepper plant. There's really hasn't been that much room for this to grow, and that's part of the reason why. So I'm using trim scissors right here. You can also use your hands to pluck off some of these buds, which is totally normal. Because if I waited a little bit longer, I would be having peppers on this, and this plant needs a bit more TLC before I go with peppers. So I'm going to cut all of these off. So these peppers are being grown in a hydroponic system from Botanicare. They're under an adduction light, and I just kind of let them grow, which was a little bit of a mistake on my part, and that's what happens. Sometimes you get busy, sometimes things go to the wayside. It's not the end of the world, as you see. We're going to clean this up a little bit. It's going to end up being a beautiful plant with lots of peppers going on it. And then this plant debris is going to go in the compost, or it can go in the garbage too, but I try to put any plant debris in the compost. And I believe this is a jalapeno pepper. Of course, as a reminder, always put plant tags on everything. I actually lose some of my plant tags sometimes, and then I have these mystery plants. I just remember this was not a super, super hot. So this will probably be going in my community garden plot eventually. I'm okay growing jalapenos in the community garden plot. Sometimes with those super hots though, you gotta watch where you're planting them, because if it's in community spaces, not that you want people to take your stuff, but if they might accidentally eat, well, let me take that back. They might learn a lesson. Don't eat other people's peppers. So this is going to go back under the light. I think it's an 18-6 veg cycle, and it will veg a little bit longer and get some more growth out of it and get some new leaves coming out of it and get it nice and healthy again. And it's going to fill out a lot easier when this is done. This was a pretty compact plant. I didn't realize that. And there is tons of flowers starting up here, buds. I am not ready for those. There you have it. This is going to be one of my pepper plants. Just looking a little bit healthier. They're going to get, like I said, they're going to get some compost tea. But that is quite a bit of plant debris that was cut off of this, and it's going to help it. So I also have the second one that's super compact. Again, same system. Maybe not as much light as this one had. So this one also obviously needs a cleanup. I have 3 of these peppers that need a major cleanup, and they'll grow back. Plants can take a lot of abuse. Not that I recommend it, but they can. And this is also the same thing when you start buying your tomato plants, and you pick that tomato plant with the flower on it and you go, this is the best one, it has the flower, I'm going to start getting tomatoes. But the plants are pretty small. You should actually pick those flowers off because you don't want it to start flowering. You want to focus on root production, plant production, getting a larger plant before this starts getting fruit. So picking the flowers off is pretty normal and should be done even on those tomato plants when you go to plant them. Because this, what's happening right now, is just too soon. Let's see. And this is really dense growth in here. There you have it. There's the second pepper plant. I'm going to put these back into the hydroponic system, and that's how easy it is to trim them up, even though I recommend you to do that more often, because there's quite a bit of plant debris that go along with this. But these will go back in the system. They're going to veg, and I will show them to you in a few weeks, and they are going to look like completely different plants, and they'll be beautiful, I promise. So this is how I prune my pepper plants that I've waited a little bit too long on, but it's not the end of the world. And they're going to be some great pepper plants for the garden. So until next time, this is Emily with The Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com.
We're youngsters with shovel, and we don't need no trouble. We're just planting where there's rubble. We're youngsters with shovel, and we don't
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden. This is your host, Emily, and today I am harvesting lettuce that I planted in my community garden plot. This was started about 30 days ago, and lettuce is a very fast-growing crop. It also means tons of it is ready at once, so as you can see, I am having a little bit of lettuce overload, and I can't possibly eat all of this tonight. So I'm going to show you an easy way to store lettuce in the fridge using True Liberty Bags, which is a sponsor of A Girl in a Garden. And then I also, at the very end, have some salads that I made. One was 24 hours after storing the lettuce in the fridge. And then the second salad was 48 hours after storing. I typically don't try to store lettuce for more than 3 days, especially fresh picked lettuce. As you know, if you are growing lettuce, once you pick it from the garden, it typically needs to be used right away, as opposed to some of the lettuce you buy from the grocery store, which lasts a lot longer. So in my experience, I have put fresh picked lettuce in the fridge before, and the next day it was completely wilted and could not be used. Using the chicken bags from True Liberty Bags, I had 3 different salads, 3 different meals from this. I was able to use the fresh picked stuff, some the next day, and some the day after. So it's a great, easy way to preserve those fresh harvested fruits and vegetables from the garden. So let me show you how easy it really is.
So the lettuce is harvested, and I've already made a salad. And I've used all the lettuce that I want to use for tonight from what I got from my community garden plot. So now it's time to store it. So how I'm going to store it is I'm going to take my freshly washed lettuce. I'm going to put them in a salad spinner. Give it a few pumps. Slow that down. Get the last of the dampness out of it. It's okay if it's a little bit damp. And then I'm going to take a True Liberty bags. This is a chicken bag. Here is a chicken bag. Open this one up. And I am going to drop the lettuce in the chicken bag. And it's okay if it's a little bit damp still. Okay, so I have it in my bag, and I am going to grab a little tie, a little twist tie. So here's a little trick to keep it from going bad and storing it in the fridge. We're gonna blow it, we're gonna gather it together, get all the lettuce in there. We're actually gonna blow it up. I'm going to twist this off. So here I have fresh grown lettuce ready to go in the fridge. It's washed. It's ready to be made into a salad. So when you were storing food, I am using my chicken bags from True Liberty Bags to store lettuce. So it's another way to use it, and then I will have fresh lettuce for tomorrow. So until next time, this is Emily on A Girl in a Garden. Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. This is your host, Emily. And today I am talking with my friend Kyle, who happens to be a very talented gardener. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing very good, Emily.
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden. Now, here is my first question. What is urban gardening?
To me, urban gardening is many different things, but it's not just growing tomatoes or something on a balcony or a rooftop or a small raised bed in a really highly populated area. Even though urban gardening is all of those things, to me, it really goes to the lower income parts of the cities where crime is higher and it's a lot harder to find high quality produce. So when I think about urban gardening, I like to think about those areas and what they can do to be more self-sustaining and self-sufficient with their food source.
And a lot of people who, especially inner city areas, food deserts is very common.
Yes, that's exactly the places I'm talking about. And I like to see, in sometimes situations, even the city will help pitch in with grants, but they could take some of the abandoned lots that are just an eyesore, and then with the community involved, they can help to create a community garden there by really fixing it up and even amending the soils that have been pretty much laid barren for years.
You're in the Midwest. There's been a lot of manufacturing or houses that's been torn down and cities that are empty. A few weeks ago, I had a Dre from Youngstown, and they're trying to build garden areas in these cities, and they need to do container gardening for now because they have to remediate all of the soil for anything to be able to be grown there.
Yeah. I'm familiar with what Dre's doing over there, and it's really interesting. And what I think about it is, all right, because you have the higher income areas of the cities, people are more well off, and sometimes they'll have some sort of grocery store in their neighborhoods. But a lot of them can even go out of the city to the suburbs and go to a Whole Foods or something and get some good produce. But yeah, in these lower income areas, they don't have that ability really, and they don't have anything near them. So I really like the idea of using containers to start with, because yeah, some of the soils are just too bad. You can't even grow in those.
And it takes a lot of money and a lot of volunteer and just community interactions to get some of these projects starting. And they are starting, and you're hearing different stories every single week of different gardens and different communities coming together for a source of food.
Yeah, they're taking it into their own hands. That's really what I see about it, is self-sustainability is key. And it's a real grassroots project all the time. I read about them in different newspapers and magazines. And it really takes a group of leaders from that community to step in and take control of the land again and really make something beautiful out of it.
And we need that, especially in some of these cities. And I think everyone seems to use Detroit as an example.
Yes.
I've been to Detroit several times, and my family had houses there, and we'd go back. And I remember getting a tour when I was about 22, and of being, why would anyone want to live here? This looks terrible. And there's no infrastructure. There's nothing there. But there are people that live there, and they still need access to services. And services include food. And food's expensive, or it's really cheap and really unhealthy for you.
Yeah, right. And I've been to Detroit a couple times in the last 5 years, and yeah, what you're talking about is a lot of urban blight, and it's just not appealing to the eye, and people really don't want to move in there. So yeah, the gardens can help to get rid of some of that and bring a little bit of hope back in the community. Because like you said, that the high cost of fresh produce, and that has a lot to do with the fuel costs and bringing it in from afar. So if they can grow things closer to where they are is really the key.
And another place I've been, and I've gotten lost in the, I think it's in Chicago. It must have been the south side of Chicago. It's very similar to Detroit, and it's amazing what just a community garden or gardening areas, besides the food that you get from it, is the interaction that you get from the community members. And especially when it's people coming out and growing food, and those community members are very open to helping others as opposed to someone selling drugs on the corner down the street.
Right. And where I live, we're a little over an hour outside of Chicago, so I'm pretty familiar with these areas, and that's what I like to focus more of my attention on there in the future, is those areas. And really, a big point of it too is to get the children involved, the young people in that area. Give them something more to look forward to, because it is a rough life there, and the futures are kind of bleak. But yeah, really focus on the youth and get them growing stuff. That's my grow something is my slogan.
You have another slogan this year. You want to plant gardens everywhere. Is that right?
Yes, that's my key. Mainly by that, I feel that some people think that you have to be born with a green thumb, which some case may be true for some people, but I really think that it's something that you learn and work hard on. And I want to see all my friends and everybody just planting something. And if there's an area that can have a garden, even if it's small and you can do it with containers, let's grow something there. Sure.
Get everyone planting. The nice thing about gardening is it's a learning process, and even if you kill plants, you'll learn something from it and maybe not do that the next time, or at least kill the plant in that particular way.
Oh yes. Well, and you learn something from each plant you kill, because I've killed several plants in my time, because I wasn't formally trained in horticulture. I picked it up over the last 10 years and really learned as much as I could and really got my hands dirty, so to say. And yeah, I've always liked to learn things as much as I can in all aspects of life. But you learn so much from just growing plants that you really can't learn in a classroom of any type.
No, and especially with for your gardening style, you really like to stick with organic soil gardening. And I do a lot of container gardening, but the thing is, there's still a lot of organic products out there that can be used in container gardening, can be used in soil gardening, and I'm learning every single day about these different organic products.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a little story. When I moved in to the place I live in now, it's been about a couple years. There was a garden in the backyard, but the trees over the years have grown in so much that it was completely shaded and it just wasn't productive. So I took the garden out, which is kind of a hard thing to do, but ever since then I've been doing a container garden on the side of my driveway next to my house. And yeah, all sorts of different organic methods can be used in container garden, just like making your own compost. You can mix that with the growing medium you're using, and there's a whole lot of organic nutrients and supplements that. And then I've grown just about everything I can grow in a garden in a container. I've done tomatoes, peppers, onions, carrots, radishes, broccoli, all sorts of different plants.
And you get delicious food from it.
Yeah, right at home too.
Right at home. Now, you happen to live in an area where you can have a garden in the backyard, but when you think of it on the larger scale is you might just have a balcony or the fire escape or just a very small area to plant just a few plants. It's possible with containers, and you can do organic gardening methods. You can still grow some tomatoes. You can get some onions. The possibilities are pretty much unlimited for being able to grow just about anything anywhere.
Yeah, I would agree completely. And my advice to people that are just getting started and doing a small container garden, say on their balcony or their smaller backyard or something, is to read as much as you can about it. There's many good books. One I'm really a big fan is it's called The Edible Balcony. I think it's from Alex Mitchell, I believe, is the author. And she breaks it down and simplifies it. So you get research as much as you can. And then when you start, try not to go too big the first time because it can be daunting. I've seen a lot of people who almost feel like it's too much and just quit.
And that has to be the best garden tip to any gardener. Start small.
Yeah, because in your mind you want everything. You look at a seed catalog and you just if you're like me, you just get super excited and you want everything. But yeah,
as a new gardener, you should not look at seed catalogs.
That's very true. It all looks delicious, but it's not easy to grow. It takes practice and education.
And a lot of the education is learned by doing and watching your plants and continuing the reading. And there's some great books out there. So start small with the garden. Get a little experience and continue growing, and it becomes addicting. And if you are a gardener, you know it becomes addicting. But start with just a few plants and add more, because in the next year, you probably won't be able to walk through that area you've planted so many plants.
Yep. I know exactly what you mean.
Well, thank you, Kyle, for joining me today and talking a little bit about gardening and your philosophy of plant a garden anywhere. Start some plants.
Yeah, well, it was my pleasure, Emily. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I hope that you come back again and tell us a little bit about some organic gardening methods as well. I have a feeling you know quite a bit about it.
I would be more than glad to.
Well, great.
Right now it's a beautiful sunny day, and I think I'm going to have to get out to the garden.
Yes, so we're going to cut this short because I want to go do the same thing. So get out and garden. Until next time, this is Emily on A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. Welcome back to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. Thank you for joining me this week as I have talked about my backyard and what's going on back there. Dewey misters, using with arrow clones, pruning peppers and storing lettuce. These can also, the videos can be found. There'll be a show will be posted up tomorrow on the DFC radio page. You can also find some of the videos on YouTube for A Girl in a Garden. And I finally have gotten enough followers on YouTube that I got to change my name. So instead of having that huge number sequence that you have to have forever, you can now go to youtube.com, A Girl in a Garden, and it pops up right away. And man, that's taken forever. But I just hit, no, I have to go look. I believe it's 250 subscribers on YouTube, so I can finally set my name. And YouTube and I have this love-hate relationship. But long story short, you can see, I believe, 130 videos from A Girl in a Garden posted up on YouTube. And you can always check the archives on DFC Radio. So I am bringing my recording devices and all the stuff to Las Vegas. I'll be taking lots of pictures at this show that's supposed to be humongous, and I keep looking at the show exhibits and seeing what booths I want to go to. And there's one that's mixing botanical extracts in vaporizer stuff, so I really want to see what kind of botanicals they're putting in there. And a lot of it was talking about chamomile and lavender and essential oils, which essential oils are great for things. I don't think you're supposed to be ingesting them, but I have lots of questions about it because we're seeing all this other health stuff, and it all comes back to gardening, as you know, for A Girl in a Garden. So you can have your crop-specific grows. You can have your botanical extracts. It's made from obviously botanicals. It's all about health and mind and body, and it all incorporates. It's all about growing stuff and eating what you grow and consuming what you grow. So it all does tie around, even even though I'm talking about marijuana, and some people just hate me when I talk about it. So as I say, though, it's a great show, and I'm really looking forward to it. And that's the main show that we have for November. And we'll see what I can get for some interviews and some pictures and some feedback. I'll be talking about it on next week's show, A Girl in a Garden, Tuesday, 5 p.m. And then Nana Lux will also be talking about it on the Heavy Teas Grow Show, as we are a guest around 7 p.m. on the 18th. So we'll give some feedback of what we thought of this show. And I also I've moved around. I've been traveling a lot lately, so I haven't been able to do a lot of my indoor gardening because it's really hard to water when you're not around. But next week, I have some Grodan cubes and this garden, I think it's Garland tabletop garden that's in my kitchen. And I have a whole bunch of seeds, and I just got a new pH meter from... No, I'm going to have to look at the name, but I have a brand new pH meter, Grow Pro, which is actually from Hannah Instruments. So I will have to pH the rockwool cubes that I'm using to start seeds and put them in my kitchen and plug in a timer. And there you go. I have seed starts that are grown in my backyard. They're grown in my kitchen to go in my backyard. So next Sunday, when I'm home from Vegas, I will be setting all of that up because I am not traveling for a little bit, so I'll be able to water my seedlings and make sure that my timer's working and all that fun stuff. Automation is an amazing thing, and I will say it's really needed because I keep coming into these predicaments of like, oh, I started all these seeds and I'm doing this, and you take off and no one can water them. Or in my case, earlier this year, I asked someone to water 3 times on a business trip, and when I came back, they let me know they only were able to water once because they forgot, and everything was dead. And I didn't have anything I could say because they graciously offered, and I accepted, and it's just what happens. So automation is pretty darn amazing, or just being home so you can keep track of your stuff, or a mix of both. So I will be doing that next Sunday, making a video and talking about pHing and rock wool and getting some seeds started so I can plant more in my garden outdoor and just to have a few more plants indoor. I like having plants growing around my house, and obviously that's why I have a grow in a garden. So next week we'll talk about that, talk about the trade show, maybe some Thanksgiving recipes that involve basil because it seems like all I can grow is basil. And I also want to hear what are some of your favorite Thanksgiving foods because we're coming up into a food time of year. It's cold. It makes you want to stay home. It's dark, and then you eat all this wonderful food and gain weight. But it's the holiday time. So what kind of food is your favorite Thanksgiving food? And with that, I'm going to end the show and say until next week, this is Emily on A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com.
Brainstorm.